When you think of happiness, you might think of your families or doing something you love. But have you ever really considered that happiness anytime, anywhere, could be a choice you always have available? For the past 6 years, I've had the pleasure of working with seniors. And one of the things I love the most about them is their strength in choosing to be humble, loving, and selfless, making them happier people. Happiness is defined merely as the state of being happy. It isn't defined as wealth, success, or luck. And that's because happiness is what you make it and when you decide to make it. Dan Gilbert, a psychology professor at Harvard who studies the science of happiness, believes our brains have an ability similar to a simulator that has tremendous unknown effects on our daily experiences. His research shows that we can choose how we feel about something before we experience it. He uses a fun example saying, Ben & Jerry's doesn't have liver and onion ice cream, and it's not because they whipped some up, tried it, and went yuck. It's because without leaving your armchair, you can simulate that flavor and say yuck before you make it. Now, while the simulator sounds like it might be doing us a favor, Gilbert also explains how the simulator has a chance of working poorly. I want you to think of a time when you were looking forward to something and had imagined it going over great, being the most fun or most life-changing thing you've ever done. But instead, after you had experienced it, you were left feeling disappointed or not as pleased as you thought you would be. Well, this is an example of your simulator not doing you a favor. Along with giving us a predisposed idea of our feelings, it can also give us the wrong idea about our feelings, leading us to think of something being worse or better than it actually is. This reminds me of when my kid always wants the newest and latest toy. She'll beg me for it and ask me for weeks and weeks, and finally she'll earn it through doing chores or something, and she'll be so excited at first that she got it, and within a day, she's over it and she just decides that it wasn't as cool as she thought it was going to be. So what if we could harness and train this simulator's ability to be efficient in keeping us in a state of happiness or experiencing more moments of happiness? My happier seniors have the capabilities of doing so, and it might be more simple than you think. Through being humble and accepting and helping others, these seniors find happiness, and they don't think too much of what might come, but they instead enjoy the now and simply make the most of every moment. Aside from training our thoughts, there are many simple acts one could do to improve their happiness as well as others. If my job has taught me anything, it's that being selfless is more beautiful and rewarding than I would have ever guessed. One senior that I work with, Barb, is a retired social worker, and all day, every day, she's continually looking for someone to help. Despite her dementia, which causes her to ask you every 5 minutes what she can do to help, Barb was always a loving, caring, and selfless person throughout her life. Her family describes her as always being the person you could count on to help you and put your needs before her own. And before her state of dementia, and still today, Barb would tell you many stories of her life, and not one of them would be unhappy. That doesn't mean she didn't often have unpleasant experiences, but rather that she could see past her own issues and help others, which in turn increased her moments of happiness. Barb's gift of being selfless was her key to happiness. The renowned author Andrew Weil talks about the benefits of being selfless in his book titled Spontaneous Happiness. In one chapter, he talks about how putting other people first can immensely affect one's happiness, as well as those around them. When we place other people first or commit selfless acts to help other people, we have the chance to see outside of our box of life problems, which allows us to give our minds a rest and see things in a different perspective. Whether it's paying it forward to the stranger behind you at Starbucks, or volunteering at a homeless shelter, or using one of your many talents to spread joy, there are many ways that you can reach out to help those around you. For me, it's being able to take home torn or misfitted clothes from my residents to sew or hem. For them, it's such a treat since many of them don't have the funds or the capability to go shopping. I take them home on my time off to fix them, and it takes some time and effort, and it isn't always what I would rather be doing when I first get off of work, but it brings them so much joy, and their gratitude makes it all worthwhile. So who wouldn't want to make someone's day brighter by putting them first instead of themselves? Sometimes happiness takes humbleness, selflessness, and a whole lot of strength, especially after one has been through a traumatic experience. But it's not impossible. That was the case for a good friend of mine who was able to turn a tragedy into something beautiful that became bigger than she could have ever expected. 3 years ago, my friend Melissa gave birth to a healthy and beautiful baby girl named London. One seemingly ordinary night, when London was just a year and a half old, Melissa was rocking her to sleep. Never did she expect that this would be the last time that she got to hold her baby, the life she created, in her arms with a beating heart. Later that evening, she went to check on her and found her blue and no longer breathing. She rushed her to the hospital, and she was pronounced dead. The tests all came back with little information, but when they did reveal something, it was that she had suffered from SIDS, or sudden infant death syndrome. London's passing left Melissa devastated and on the brink of giving up on life entirely. But family, church, and friends and I were there to comfort her and got her through the hardest days. It was in those times when Melissa realized how lucky she was to have people around her to talk to, people willing to cook a meal for her, help her clean, do laundry, just help her keep her life afloat while she tried to repair herself and her family. So a year later, Melissa and her husband, who was a counselor, started their own nonprofit business to help others who lost loved ones or had been through a tragic event. And they offer services such as laundry, cooking, cleaning, and counseling in honor of London and to give back what many other people had given them. Through their altruistic decision to help others, even shortly after a painful time in their lives. Melissa and her family were able to find closure and healing with their strength to help others, even in the wake of loss. Happiness is many things in many forms, such as humbleness and selflessness. But one thing that they all have in common is the fact that they are all choices that anyone could make in any given situation to help others, to help themselves, improve their lives, and overall happiness. Choosing to have this sort of disposition in regard nestled into our daily lives can prevail a happiness that is bigger and more beautiful than you could have imagined.